That camera has to be set.
And be alive.
All right, guys. Good morning and welcome to Business Whitt's Winning Your Entrepreneurial Experience Better Business Results Hangout. 30 minutes to better business results. This program is really all about how to move your business, improve your business, spending 30 minutes a week working on your business instead of working in your business. And it was really generated out of a program and some of the activities that we've seen from an economic standpoint over the last decade or so. We've seen, outsourcing, global economy. We had the Great Recession. A lot of people lost their jobs or were laid off or transitioned out of their particular jobs due to a variety of different reasons. Typically, it was without their consent. They didn't get to decide that. And because the new economy is really generating jobs at the very low level, sort of under $30,000 and greater than $80,000, many of these people have decided they're going to go out and start their own business. And so as we run and we work our business, unfortunately what happens is a lot of people get onto sort of a treadmill where they just kind of run, and they're going to get a certain amount of results based on the way they operate, but they never get any better because they never take any time to spend to actually work on getting better. And so the key I'm trying to demonstrate here with this particular program is that if you were to spend just 30 minutes a week, it can make a big difference in your particular business. So today we've got Stephen Blunt. Stephen's a financial advisor with us, and we're going to share a little bit about. Stephen's going to share a little bit about what he's doing, what he's trying to get accomplished, and then we'll identify what maybe some things are that could help Stephen look at some of his challenges from a slightly different perspective, and come up with some new ideas and some new action items that allow him to propel or improve his business on a go-forward basis. So, Stephen, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation.
So, Stephen, as a financial advisor, and we've all met many of them. Help me understand why and how did you get into this particular business?
That's a good question. So I started off actually in the engineering field. At the time, I was married to someone who entered the financial world, worked as a financial advisor, and I would see how she interacted with her clients, her satisfaction, and really what she was getting out of it, and the end result being able to help those people. At the time, the company she was working for was just named the #1 company to work for in all of America for large companies. And I've never had large company experience before. If I ever changed, what I'm doing, make a career leap, I wanted to get some big company experience. And I thought, wow, that would be a great company to work for. So forward 6 years, I finally said, all right, I'm done with the engineering world. I'm ready to make a change. And I found that as an engineer, people would come to you and say, I've got a problem. You use a bunch of numbers, come with a solution. And as an advisor, people would say, I've got a problem, use a bunch of numbers. So I found that the transition from engineering to financial advising was very easy and smooth. So I was with that firm for 5 years. I moved over almost 2 years ago. I've been rebuilding my business. I'm very pleased with where I am on track. Obviously, I still have room to grow my practice. And I'm at the point where I'm going, I need better time management. I need to be focusing on the things that I need to be focusing on versus activity, which isn't necessarily productivity. So I really need to focus so I can go out and meet new people and...
Okay. So from a time management standpoint, I'm going to show you this thing called 3 Eyes the Entrepreneur, which is a really effective program that allows us to kind of understand where we should spend our time, and it actually can allow us to build strategies to be more effective at time management. It's not something that happens because you snap your fingers, but it's something that happens we get better at on a day-to-day basis. But before I go there, have you done any other type of time management type workshops, seminars, reading?
Yeah, I have. So in the past, I've used time blocking. So I would set the time blocks out for being on the phone or returning calls. I'd have set appointment times. So I knew from 9 to 11, I'd be meeting client. 11 to 12, I'd be returning calls. 12 having lunch, hopefully with maybe a CPA. After meeting clients again, and then returning calls. Usually at the last half hour of the day, preparing for the next day.
Okay, and that's a high quality way to manage your team time. And one of the things that we know is that one of the big reasons why people don't get some things accomplished that they want to get accomplished is because they don't allocate any time. And in that particular case, you did allocate time to do those things. And what did you find from a results standpoint? Did you find that you were getting the things that you wanted done, or were there some other things that weren't getting done that you wish you were getting done, or how did that work out?
Well, that worked out well. The pro is trying to find people who can fit that schedule. I mean, if I'm working with a couple who are working during the day, they obviously can't meet between 9 and 11 or 1 and 4. So I do hold certain evenings open for later points. So I find that I would deviate, and then there'd be an odd request, and I'd end up with a lot on my desk, and suddenly the time blocking isn't being followed. So sticking to the time blocking was difficult.
So in some cases you weren't able to, or you didn't follow the time blocking that you had established, and then in other cases, when you had allocated time to spend with clients, being able to create a time that was effective for both the client and you became a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Okay, and I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, especially in a service business, and I'm in the service business, and trying to get somebody to fit into my schedule, right? Because obviously I can make it more efficient if they fit into my schedule, but I need to be able to spend time with clients, and so there's some different things that we can go in that particular path. So let me show you this thing called the 3 Eyes of the Entrepreneur, and this is kind of part of the practice here. I do a little bit of these. I use these crayons. One of the things about this job that's so much fun is that I get to use crayons, right? And so 3 Eyes of the Entrepreneur is based on a book by Michael Gerber. And Michael Gerber wrote a book called The E-Myth Revisited. Have you heard of that book?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Great read. I thoroughly recommend that you invest the time to get it. It's pretty quick. It's pretty easy. But what it talks about in this particular case is a young woman who has started a pie shop. And, her dream all along, she learned to bake pies at the foot of her aunt, through the holidays and everything, and the engagement and the time spent with her aunt and the aromas and the feelings and everything else about that activity, so, kind of led her down the path to opening up her own pie shop. She thought this would be the best thing that she could ever do. She loved it. And the story opens up with Michael Gerber in the kitchen of the pie shop, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and her name's Mary, and Mary's covered with flour, right? And she's the only one there, and she's got to make 50 pies by tomorrow morning. All of her employees have gone home, and she is just scrambling all over the place, and she's got her fingers in the dike of every little spot. She has to take control, and it's just crazy, crazy business, and she is not a happy camper, right? So Michael says, okay, well, listen, let's understand how this thing works, right? And in the beginning, when we start a business, we have a very, what we call outwardly, this is my hieroglyphic eyeball, right? We have an outwardly focused view, right? And it has to do with, the marketplace, the customers, right? And we ask ourselves questions like, what if, right? And how can I, right? And those questions are what lead ourselves to building products and services for the marketplace. So at some point then we say, listen, we start to sell our product, we start to develop the market, we start to develop customers, and then what happens is we have to shift our focus inward on the business, right? And what we get is we get the manager view, right? The manager view is absolutely critical because this has to do with how do we deliver and how do we provide our products and services. And so now we start asking a little different questions. So we say how much, and we say how many, right? And when. Those are the different kind of questions from a manager standpoint. Now, if we're not careful, we can get into the next step, right? The next view is really uncomfortable, right? And this is what we call the googly eyes step, right? And this is that place where you end up having to run around and do any little thing and every little thing about it. You're the manager, you're the boss, you're the deliverer, you're the orderer, you order the products, you put the thing together, you deliver it, and you just start scrambling all over the place. And it's a very uncomfortable place. And when you get into this particular position, it's a trap. It's very hard to get out of this particular trap. And so we call this the technician trap. And this will kind of tie into your time management stuff here pretty quick. So when we get into this particular trap, and people find themselves into this trap all the time, I work with a lot of small business owners that are dealing with this kind of thing. We start to ask ourselves, okay, so from a technician standpoint, if this is the lowest level, this is the service delivery, this is the filing, this is all those kinds of things. If you had to hire somebody to do that kind of stuff for you, how much would you pay them? So, Stephen, how much would you pay for an administrative assistant? What's the hourly rate or annual rate you think you'd have to spend?
Probably about $20 an hour.
Okay, so we've got $20 an hour.
It's a starting point.
All right. And using a 2,000-hour year, $40,000 a year, right? I use 2,000 hours because it's easy to do the math. Okay. So now let's say that you had a team of administrative assistants, because you had a lot of stuff going on, right? And you wanted to hire a supervisor or a manager for, that's not a very good color, for that position. How much do you think you'd pay a supervisor or a manager for that position? They had to manage 6 or 7 of these, and you had to hire a supervisor to manage it. What would you pay the supervisor?
The supervisor would probably be somewhere $45 an hour.
So $40 an hour, right? And so that's $80,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay. Now the question for entrepreneurs, and one that they don't always ask themselves, right? But you're the owner, and you're running this business. How much do you want to make? And remember, who sets the rate down here for the administrative assistant? What sets that rate?
It's kind of the market there.
Yeah, the market. The market sets that rate. Okay.
Yeah.
And the market does the same thing here, right? Because you're not going to get the right type of talent unless you pay, a fair wage.
Fair wage. Yep.
So these are both defined by outside sources. You don't get to play with them, right? But now we're up here and we get to say, what do you want to make? What do you want to earn? And who gets to decide that?
I do.
That's right. So it could be whatever it is that you want to do. So in terms of your hourly rate, have you ever given it any thought of what hourly or annual deal would you really like, given your wish list, what would you really like to accomplish?
So when I have a look at the comparable professionals that I work with on a daily basis, which is attorneys and CPAs, they're usually somewhere between $150 to $250 an hour.
Right. Okay. Great. So let's just use $150. Right. And so that would be roughly $300,000 a year. Okay. So in order to get out of this trap, we take a look at this thing and say, listen, if you want to make $150 an hour, you have to do the work that's worth $150 an hour. Right? If you're spending your time doing this work, $20 an hour, what's happening?
So I'm not making $150 an hour.
Well, you're costing yourself money, right? So you can sit there and say, well, listen, how do I make the $150? Because if I'm making $150, I can certainly pay this guy $20 or this person $20 an hour. So bottom line is, if you find yourself doing this, then you are likely losing money on that deal, right? And the same thing here, right? So if you find yourself doing $40 an hour work, right, you're costing yourself money because you're not able to do the $150 an hour work. So now you can take your day and you can evaluate it from a time standpoint. What are all the current tasks and everything that you do in your day? And which ones of those fit into this bucket? Right? And which ones of those fit into that bucket? And which ones fit into that bucket?
Okay.
All right. Now, we start asking ourselves a little different question. We say, how can I do these things, or how can I get these things accomplished differently, right? More effectively, faster, and Can I outsource? Should I hire an assistant? Should I invest in technology? Should I do some different things like that? We've got this virtual economy now. You can reach out, around the world to get resources to do your stuff. And if you were able to invest a little bit of time and energy today to figure that out so that you could end up with more time making $150 an hour, that makes some sense. That would be a great investment, right? It would be worth your time and energy to figure that out, because in the long run, you get to spend more time making $150 stuff.
Absolutely.
The same thing happens here, right? How do I get somebody to do all the management, all of the, when I think about management, so I have financials, I have a bookkeeper, I have a variety of different people that I tap into for this kind of stuff that helps to manage the team and the resources. Now, I personally don't have any employees. Everybody, but it's not that I don't have any employees. I just use 1099 contractors, right?
Oh.
My feeling is I don't see any need to actually have employees. I haven't figured out the value for me in doing that. But I use a lot of different resources, right? And so somebody to help me manage all those different resources is very, very helpful. And so you could have a manager, and you could happily have a virtual or outsourced manager that could do those kinds of things, and you could pay them $40 an hour. And we could figure out maybe how to do that. And do you need a full-time one of these? And do you need a full-time one of those? Maybe not. And in the beginning, maybe you just outsource, or you find a solution for a few of these items and a few of these items, right? But in any case, every minute that you free up in these two categories is another minute that you get to spend over here making $150 an hour, right? $150 an hour is, what, $2.50 a minute?
Yes.
Right? And you just say you save 10 minutes, so now you save $25, but that's $25 a day. That's $125 a week. That turns into $5,000 over the course of a year, $6,000 over the course of a year. So with this particular strategy, then, we start to talk about how do we reallocate our time. Now, what you mentioned earlier about allocating your time is really important, and so maybe it starts to shift a little bit. Let me ask you a question. What are the activities that you do that generate the dollar value that you're looking for?
I'm either on the phone with the client, sitting in front of a client, talking to a potential client, or talking to someone who can refer me a client.
Okay, so we know that's the case, and some of those are more challenging to schedule. In fact, we talked about getting clients and getting them to fit into the schedule, and but if we freed up time through this way here, we might have a little bit more flexibility to accommodate the client or the prospect time schedule requests.
Yes.
Okay. So while I got you, we're going to go to another one. I don't always do two of these things, but I figure this is going to work out really, really well, because this is really important and valuable when it comes to time management and understanding how to get better and how to get more effective. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen because you snapped your fingers, right? But it does give you a long-term plan and a long-term strategy on how to get better. Right? Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
Okay. Well, before we go on to the next step, right? Understanding this concept here, right? What are those things that you could do? So ideally, we've shifted your perspective. We've given you some new information. So based on this information, give me a couple action items that you could take today that would make you be able to use this particular information more effectively in your business.
Well, definitely prioritizing my to-do list, making sure that the time or making sure that the time that I have available is appropriately matched in priority. So if that means I'm on hold with something, that if somebody trying to get an answer from someone, I can be doing some of those less dollar-earning activities, for example.
Okay. Do you have a good list of what this stuff is? This lower level stuff is?
Okay. Anything really. Movement to pieces of paper.
Does anything like technology and cloud services and virtual services come into play that can be done more effectively with somebody else?
It can. So one of the things, we have a requirement to retain records for a certain period of time. So I do need records. but I know we just implemented a week ago our e-signature capabilities. So that significantly helps with having to print paperwork, scan or fax paperwork, get the client to print it, sign it, rescan or mail it. It's now literally from hours and days to minutes. So getting turnaround on that, and it also means I don't have paperwork that I then still have to rescan and send off again. It's all done.
Let's back up and say, okay, that's already done, right?
That one's already done.
So going forward, what could you explore? How would you explore other services? Because we know this stuff exists, right? And unfortunately, there's a lot of things that we don't know, right? So how do we find out what that stuff is so that we can take more and more out of this bucket, so that you have more and more time to spend up here?
Right. So the other big one would be being on the phone to schedule, for example, review meetings. So rather than having someone who can pick up the phone and call clients to say it's time for your, semi-annual review or beneficiary review or whatever it is, can you meet on a Tuesday morning or a Thursday afternoon? Having someone do that would be very effective.
Okay, and again, just frees up a little bit more time for you to be able to do that. Okay, so you've got a couple action items that you could take on based on this particular information, and just knowing this kind of stuff. If you spent a little bit of time thinking about this kind of stuff on a weekly basis, do you think you'd come up with some different ideas that might propel your business forward from a time standpoint? Because we know the more time you spend here, the better you are at getting to the goal that you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I am aware of that if you get a certain result from doing a certain action, you can't expect to get a different result if you keep on doing the same action. You've got to change an action.
Yeah, that's the immutable laws of nature, right?
Absolutely. So right, I know I need to change what I'm doing to get to the next level.
Okay, so again, you've got a couple action items that allow you to take that step and move forward, and again, if you spent 30 minutes doing this next week, you probably come up with some new stuff, right? And even if all we ever did was spend 30 minutes working on how do I reschedule this stuff, right? It would give us some guidance on how to get more and more effective, and we'd get to this $150 an hour activity a lot more frequently.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing how 30 minutes in front of a discussion, just thinking about this kind of stuff, can make a difference in your business, because our conversation, this information is now in your head. It's a part of who you are and what you're going to take forward from now till the end of time. And as long as you spend a little bit of time every week, and whether it's on this or you could do it on something else, it might make a big difference. So I want to show you one other thing when it comes to clients, right? When we talk about clients and getting them scheduled into the time slots that you have available, and it really comes down to value, right? If they perceive enough value, then they'll adjust whatever their time frame, schedule type stuff is, right? No, we're all busy. There are not many of us that are sitting on the couch watching TV or playing video games. That's not happening. So the real question is, what's the value you have? What does that mean? How valuable is it to them, so they can then compare it to the other things that they have in the day? Because the simplest thing for them is to say, I have this hour or this half an hour free, right? And if you can accommodate that, then it's a done deal. But it doesn't happen all the time, because they're busy and you're busy. You both have calendar, you both have schedules. So then, what we want to do is we want to pump up the value of what they'll get from us and for the time they get spent with us, so that value looks greater or is greater or appears greater than several other items that they have scheduled on their particular calendar, right? And so when we do that, we talk about this thing called behavioral change. There's a formula called Gleischer's formula for behavioral change, and it was David Gleischer put this together back in the 60s. And when we talk about behavioral change, this is kind of the father of the formula. They've changed the name for a lot of these different things, but what he talks about in this particular case is sort of the immutable laws of nature. And the immutable laws of nature is that nature takes the path of least resistance. Water always takes the path of least resistance to go downhill. People, humans, are a part of nature, and so we always take the path of least resistance either, right? That's our natural, normal way to go, and that's why change isn't so easy. What that means is that under any natural circumstance, there's going to be some degree of resistance, right? So the R stands for resistance. Why? Well, because change takes energy, effort, time. It's just part of the deal, right? We know that change isn't easy, and the degree and the intensity of resistance can go up or down depending on the complexity or the investment associated with the change. But we do know also that on this side of the formula, there are certain things that have to be in place for somebody to overcome that particular resistance, right? So one of those things, oh, I got the same color. One of those things is this thing called D, and the D stands for dissatisfaction. I'm going to have to get a better board that doesn't wobble all over the place. All right, so if somebody's unhappy with their current lot in life, with their current space, they might be willing to make a change. Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough, right? The key is you have to have everything on this side. They have to know where they want to go to. What's the vision, right? What would the change result in, right? And so you need to have some dissatisfaction and some vision. Now, you may have the dissatisfaction might be low, the vision might be high, this dissatisfaction might be high, and the vision might be low. Either one, you got to have it. But if either one of them are zero, right, if anything on this side of the equation is a zero, what do we get?
Zero.
We get zero. We don't get anything. We don't get any overcoming the resistance, right? So if you're unhappy and you have a place you'd like to go, you might be willing to change. But there's one more piece that's totally important, because if you don't know how, right, if you don't know how to get started, right, and it's really all about getting started. It's not about getting done. It's about getting started, right? The FS stands for first steps. So if you don't know the first steps to get started, then it's impossible to change. So in your discussions with your clients, you actually have a mini behavioral change that you're trying to accomplish, right? Change your schedule to meet my need.
Sure.
Right? Because you're busy. Now again, this is competing factors, right? They're competing with their schedule and their items, and you're competing with your schedule and your items, right? But the key to this whole process in the negotiation, in which case this really is, right, can we create a time that works for us, is to understand the value of the adjustment. And so if you find out from them, why is it that they really want to do what they want to do, what that vision is, and you say, hey, the simple thing for us to get you where you want to go is for you to meet me here at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, right? Because that's simple and it's easy, and it gets you from point A to point B, right? Because in the long run, that's all we're trying to do, is we're trying to help people get from here to there, right? And if you get them from here to there, then they're going to be pretty happy. They become buyers, right? They'll buy the idea, they'll buy the concept, they'll make the shift if it's big enough, right? So if what you're offering satisfies their vision, and if it's important enough, then they'll make the shift. And the example I always use is a very simple one. It's like if you want a box of cereal, you go down to Ralph's and you buy a box of cereal. They don't really sell it to you. They don't come out and say, hey, you really want this one? You need this one here. Look at all these ingredients and stuff. You just buy it. They just made it as easy as possible, and yet it still counts as a sale, right? And so that's what we're really trying to do, is we're just going to try and make this as easy as possible to get them where they want to go, right? And the simple way to do that is to come down to my office at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. So understanding that, understanding this model, understanding what are some of the things that sparks in your mind about ways that you could have conversations differently with some of your prospects or customers?
That's a good question. I think that I can lead is increasing that value proposition. I feel pretty confident in a lot of the other aspects, but making sure that clients understand the value of their getting. As you said, it makes it more attractive for them to say, oh, I will give up this activity or this idea because it doesn't seem as valuable anymore, and go this route.
Yeah, maybe it's just trade it, right? They don't have to give it up. They just say, hey, listen, they'll move something else so that they can accommodate.
So really making sure that value proposition looks more valuable, or at least increasing that value proposition.
And we ask questions about how much value is that, right? Is there a reason why you wouldn't want to get started accomplishing that vision today, right? Is there a reason why you wouldn't do it? So if we could arrange it, right? So if you could be here at 1 o'clock today, we could get started on this. What would you have to do to make that happen on your side?
My side?
No, this is a question we would ask the prospect or the client, right? So they've said, I can't do 1 o'clock on Tuesday. They can do 4 o'clock on Tuesday or whatever, right? It's just not 1 o'clock. And so we reiterate the value that's there, and we say, okay, so listen, what would you have to do to your calendar or your schedule in order to get you started where you want to go faster? Because that's all about them. So then you'll find out what's in their slots, and you can maybe help them figure out how to get past it. Now, maybe it's impossible. I'm not saying that it's possible. In all cases, it's not. But it is a way to kind of drive through some of the time objections to meeting your schedule. And again, if they can meet your schedule, it's a heck of a lot more effective. And it still provides great value for them, right? This is all about them in the first place.
Absolutely.
Okay. So 3 biggest insights for today.
The biggest insights are making sure that my value proposition is clearly communicated, so they have more incentive to take action, and that helps me continue to stick with my time blocking schedule. That's kind of 1 and 2. And really the second one is prioritizing my task list to focus on those activities that really do make me money, and I've got to look at either hiring a part-time person or outsourcing someone who can make, those really low-end activities that are non-productive. There's lots of activity, but not necessarily productive.
Okay, understood. And so you've got some action items and you've got some insights, and we've actually gone a little bit beyond, I think, 30 minutes. I don't know what our time frame is, and I'm trying hard to look directly at the camera instead of looking down at the clock. We've used a little more than 30 minutes, but you've identified some items to get better and move forward next week.
Yes.
Stephen, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your energy. I wish you the best of luck. And if you don't mind, we'll follow up with you in a few weeks and find out what's happened. Because I'd love to understand what kind of results you get from this conversation.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure, John.
Thank you very much. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks very much. You too, John.
So thanks for joining us at Better Business Wits. And Stephen, you didn't stop the broadcast.